What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heresy Financial. My name is Joe Brown, and recently the United States just announced that they are going to be imposing new sanctions on Russia. Once again, the United States is whipping out its giant swinging dollar and imposing financial sanctions on other countries in the world. And not only are they imposing financial restraints on Russia right now as a response to some of the things that they say Russia has done recently, but there are two additional countries that are at risk of being labeled a currency manipulator, according to Janet Yellen's first currency report. So we're going to look into what this means, that the United States is escalating its currency wars, and not just with countries like Russia or China, but other countries as well, increasing the weaponization of the dollar. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, so you might be asking yourself, how can the United States impose financial sanctions on another country? What does that even mean? Well, financial sanctions can range from a number of items. Most commonly, financial sanctions are going to be just locking a country out from being able to use the dollar. Because for countries to be able to exchange with one another using dollars, those payments have to go through the SWIFT system. And guess who controls the SWIFT system? The United States. And so if the United States government wants to impose certain rules on a country, they'll basically just tell the country, hey, you can't do X, Y, or Z. And if you do those things, we're not going to let you use the dollar. And guess what? That actually has some negative consequences for the country, and sometimes huge negative consequences for a country, because most of the world does business, international business, in dollars. So if you can't use dollars, it locks you out of a lot of international trade. And many countries rely on being able to do this simply because everybody uses the dollar. It would be similar to if a bank that you did all of your business through, all of your money comes in and out of your bank account. If a bank just came to you and said, hey, you're not allowed to use our banking services anymore because we disagree with your political beliefs. Good thing nothing like that is happening anywhere in the world, right? Now, specifically regarding what's happening with Russia right now, the United States imposed sanctions on Russia primarily involving the issuance of Russian bonds. Now, already we had certain limitations on what financial institutions in the United States could do operating in the primary markets, but basically lending money to Russia. And already banks, U.S. banks, were not allowed to operate in the primary markets and directly lend to Russia. Now, that has been extended to all U.S. financial institutions, not just the banks. Now, there are a few reasons that the United States government is citing for why they would impose these sanctions. Among the accusations are meddling in the 2020 elections and major hacks, cybersecurity attacks on companies like SolarWinds. Now, obviously, Russia's not too happy about this. The ruble took a hit from this action today in trading. Looks like it's rebounded just a tad bit, and they have vowed to respond to this. So at least for the time being, who knows whether this will escalate further or whether this will be something that just sits as is. Now, in reality, the consequences of this are pretty minimal because just because a financial institution can't operate in the primary markets in order to lend to Russia, they can still operate through the secondary market. And so basically that's the same thing as the Federal Reserve is not allowed to directly lend to the United States government. It has to go through the primary dealers first. So the United States government can borrow money from banks, and then when the banks say, oh, we don't actually want all this debt, does anybody else want it instead? And the Federal Reserve says, oh yeah, I want that debt instead. So the banks just sell that debt to the Federal Reserve. It's indirect in order to satisfy the letter of the law, but it's still the Federal Reserve lending money to the government using their money printer to monetize that debt. Same exact thing here. Yes, it makes it a little bit more inconvenient, maybe a little bit more expensive to purchase Russian debt, but you just got to find an intermediary and then you can still do so. So it shouldn't impact it too much. Now, it's not like this is even going to pose a huge threat to the Russian economy. It's not like it's going to have the same impacts like sanctions on Iran have been in the last couple of years. The Russian economy is actually extremely robust. They've got one of the best debt to GDP ratios in the entire world, and just from dealing with the fallout of COVID last year and allowing the oil prices to dump, their debt increased last year, but their total debt load, their total government debt is only around, I think, $250 billion right now. And as of last year, if you take a look here, their debt to GDP ratio is only about 14%, which again, like I said, is one of the lowest in the entire world. Compare that to the United States, which has a debt to GDP ratio of over 100%. Further than that, they've got some of the largest gold reserves in the entire world. And if they wanted to, some private estimates say they actually have enough gold that if they wanted to, they could fractionally reserve their currency with gold right now. So for years now, the monetary and fiscal policy in Russia has been extremely conservative, has gotten them financially to a pretty responsible and financially sound place, which doesn't bode well then for a country which currently has the reserve currency and currently has the ability to abuse that power if they want to. If you want to throw around your financial weight, you better make sure that you are picking on somebody your own size. It's like a parent tries to punish their kid and says, hey, as long as you live under my roof, you will follow my rules. And they don't realize the kid's actually 18, goes and gets a job and then moves out. Probably not the result you were hoping for there. And like I said, it's not just against countries like Russia that we're using the dollar as a weapon. There are two countries right now that are at risk. They're trade partners with the US. It's Thailand and Taiwan that are currently at risk of being labeled currency manipulators, which would trigger its own set of consequences. Now, they're not yet officially labeled currency manipulators, and it's possible Janet Yellen loosens up the requirements on the criteria that will label a country a currency manipulator, because those were tightened under Steven Mnuchin under Trump's presidency. So here are the criteria that currently would get a country labeled a currency manipulator. Number one, you've got more than a $20 billion bilateral trade surplus with the United States. And that simply means that in the trade just between our countries, the United States is buying $20 billion more worth of stuff from you than you are from us. Number two, you've got foreign currency intervention exceeding 2% of your GDP. And then finally, you've got a global current account surplus of 2% or more of your GDP. Now, this means that countries like Switzerland and Vietnam are already in that category of being currency manipulators, and it could very quickly involve Thailand and Taiwan as well. And this is the stupidest thing about this whole currency manipulation thing. If it's a fiat currency, it is manipulated. And here's why. There is no fiat currency in existence with a steady supply. Supply grows. And the decision on how much to increase the supply of the money is by definition manipulation of that currency. It is also by definition arbitrary because it is out of choice, mainly political will to pay for certain political actions. And so basically the United States is in a position where they're saying, everybody, you must use our dollar. And we are going to overprint the dollar so that we can spend money on things that we want to spend money on. But we don't like it if you guys take advantage of that. We want you guys to all ruin your currency pretty much just as fast as we are ruining our own currency. Because if you don't do the same thing as we do, then pretty soon you guys are all going to have a huge advantage over us financially. So we all need to go down. We all need to sink our ships at the exact same rate. And there's a little bit of wiggle room in there, 2% here, 1% there. That's fine. You exceed that though, and you stop manipulating your currency at the same rate that we are, and God forbid you let your money stabilize and strengthen against the US dollar and stop overprinting. Nope. We're going to label you a currency manipulator, even though it's usually the opposite. Now, what are the implications of this? Well, number one, could be a nice little buy the dip opportunity for Russia. And I don't know if you can see the chart on my screen here. I'll throw it up. But this is an ETF of Russia. This is one of the things that I really appreciate, actually, about American financial markets. There's an ETF for everything. And you can see here over the last couple of years, their growth has been pretty robust. Yes, they took a big hit during COVID, obviously, because of the whole oil thing, but they've recovered quite well. And like I said, they've got one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the entire world. They've got a ton of gold, ton of reserves, and their economy looks pretty robust. Probably one of the areas that we're going to see some good growth over the next 5-10 years. Number two, the more a currency is used as a weapon, the less people want to use it. And the only thing that gives you the ability to use your currency as a weapon is if you have your currency as the global reserve currency, if everybody uses it. But then if you capitalize on the ability then to weaponize your currency, nobody will want to use it anymore, which will take away your ability to actually weaponize it. It's like the only thing that allows you to kick the ladder out from underneath yourself is by standing on a ladder in the first place. But then if you kick the ladder out from underneath you, you're not going to have a ladder underneath you anymore. Now, this is nothing new. We've had currency manipulation and currency wars going on for a very long time in our world. And unfortunately, one of the things that usually happens along with currency wars as they escalate is shooting wars. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but it's possible. And finally, sanctions against countries. The United States government has the exact same power to sanction individuals. It's not usually called the same thing, but if they want, they can say, hey, this individual is not allowed to operate with United States dollars anymore. These are powers the United States government took for itself with the Patriot Act 20 years ago. And for any reason, the government can come in and literally seize and halt all actions on all accounts, brokerage accounts, bank accounts, everything. So this might be a sign to take a page out of the Russia financial book here, make yourself a little bit more robust, move some wealth outside the dollar system, store up on gold, store up on Bitcoin, get some wealth outside the SWIFT system, outside the dollar system. And if you're concerned about that wealth being confiscated through things like taxes, you can always put it in an IRA, a self-directed IRA with a company like iTrustCapital, who I use and love. And if you sign up with my link in the description below, you get your first month free. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.